What is up, Not So Pro Football Talk, or should I say, Not So Pro Seahawks Talk? Yeah, we're bringing back the old banner as you can see around here. But that's who we're going to be talking about in today's episode of rating the 2023 NFL seasons. And today is the Seattle Seahawks. Yes, this is the team that I rep all year, every year, as you can see back there as well. But we'll get right into it, guys. I have the Seahawks rated a B minus. Seahawks scraped together a 9-8 season. They missed the playoffs, of course, and I think they would have been a C minus for me, but our additions in free agency bumped up my rating, as I always keep the 2024 free agency signings a part of the 2023 season. But in addition to that, when I look back at our losses this past year, as they all stung the same, um, we had 4 losses to all playoff teams, 2 of them being San Francisco, who went to the Super Bowl, of course, the LA Rams, who made it into the playoffs as well, and the Baltimore Ravens, who made it all the way to the AFC Championship as well. But ultimately, we lost 8 games, so there were 4 other games that we did lose, but they were all within at least 7 points. So I count that as, almost there. But again, a loss is a loss, either by 1 point or 7 points. And Gino did not play up to the caliber that I expected him to play. I thought he was going to take just a tiny step above of what he did last year. And stat wise, I guess he did. But really, he did not take up that skill level step up that I wanted him to. And of course, we lost Pete Carroll. But I don't know if that is going to make my score lower than it would have been or higher than it would have been. Of course, Pete Carroll will always have the love of the Seahawks, of the 12s, of the faithful here in Seattle. But again, I think there was time for a change. Again, this bubble gum smacking guy was getting up there in age. I mean, almost older than our president at this point in time. But now we have 3 young and hungry coaches. Our head coach, of course, Mike McDonald, our offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb, and our new defensive coordinator from Dallas, Aiden Dirty. Oh, I'm saying his name right. I'm kind of glad to have him. I wouldn't mind having a guy who knows the ins and outs of the defensive side, just like he did when he was with the Cowboys, and of course, growing into a position of earning a spot as a defense coordinator somewhere. So I'm glad that all of them are here. But really, I think the thing that is holding us back is the trenches. Offensive line, defensive line. I think AJ here can agree with us. Uh, really, we played against defenses all year that were mediocre, and we got some wins there, some close losses. But the ones that we got demolished in, including the San Francisco 49ers, including the Baltimore Ravens, where Mike McDonald coached, is that they had phenomenal offensive lines and phenomenal defensive lines. So we just could not compete at that level because we were getting killed right off the snap. So again, those are the games that we usually got killed in. But other than that, I think Seahawks are deserving of a B minus here. I do think a lot of other teams in the NFL, including the Carolina Panthers, did better at the expectation standard that at least I held for these teams going into the NFL season. I expected the Seahawks to be second in the division behind the 49ers, almost rivaling them to make it to winning the NFC West. But we did not even come close. We finished third, and we didn't even make playoffs. So as you can tell, I'm kind of a little stung here again still from this 2023 season, but I'm glad to where the future is going. So without further ado, let's get right into it. 2023 draft picks. Of course, round 1, number 5, Devin Witherspoon from the University of Illinois. Oh, goodness gracious. I love this kid. He's got some spunk, kind of like the old generation of the Legion of Boom. He's a little bit smaller, but he still has that pack-a-punch type hit, and I love it. Again in round 1, pick number 20, Jackson Smith-Njigba. Arguably one of the better wide receivers in this draft. I won't say the best because he has not played up to that caliber yet, but he will soon, hopefully. And that's what I'm really riding on for this season. At round 2, pick 37, Derek Hall. He's a second string guy for us, but he's also a rotation player at the defensive end position. So I'm really thinking that he's going to make an impact coming into this season because, again, we need to draft in the trenches or find the next guy up who's going to make a difference. Round 2 again, number 52, Zach Charbonnet, running back from UCLA. Love this guy. He's very versatile, and I hope he has a bigger role coming in the season. Pick number 108 in round 4, Anthony Bradford, a guard from LSU. He is currently our starter, and he played a lot of the games as a starter for the Seahawks. So again, I think he'll stay there unless we draft someone who's better, and he might move around to maybe the other guard position as well. Round 4 again, pick 123. Cameron Young, defensive tackle from Mississippi State. Did not hit on this guy, sadly. He's a third stringer for us. Possibly could be a rotation player, but with some of the guys we signed in free agency and some of the guys I think we're going to get in the draft, I think Cameron Young doesn't have a shot to play this year, sadly. Round 5, pick 151. Mike Morris. He's an edge from Michigan. Second stringer right now, but he's looking like he could have a possibility of coming in there as a rotation player. But again, I don't think he has much of a chance like Derek Hall does. He's not as sound and he's not as skillful yet. Hopefully he can continue to progress and hopefully stay with the Seahawks to make an impact. But again, round 5, pick 154, 3 picks later, we got Olusegun Oluwatimi. He's a center from Michigan as well. And right now he's our second stringer, but if we did not get someone in free agency this year, this guy would have been the starter. So there's a possibility he still plays if he can outplay the free agent pickup that we got that I'll talk about later. Round 6, pick 198, Jarek Reed II from New Mexico. He's a third stringer, and I don't think he's going to play, especially with the guys that we got in free agency, the guys that we kept around, and of course, the guys that we possibly could pick up in this draft for a long term. So again, not too high on this pick, but one pick that I'm very hopeful for because somehow these third string running backs for us always end up moving into the first string lineup or the second string lineup due to injury, sadly. But round 7, pick 237, Kenny McIntosh, the backup there in Georgia 2 years ago. He was very versatile himself. So, of course, he's not as good as Jacques Charbonnet right now, but he could get there. There is a chance that he could be a weapon for us later on in the season or in seasons to come. But other than that, 2023 signings. Draymond Jones, defensive end for 3 years, $51 million. I do think last year this was an overpay, but hopefully this year, in his second year on this deal, he can go ahead and show us why we actually paid him that much. But for now, I think this is what's bringing our Seahawks grade down because Draymond Jones did not play up to par as what he's getting paid. $17 million a year, not even that much of a big difference for us at the defensive line position. So Jarek Reed, defensive end, again, 2 years, $10.8 million. I like this signing because we're bringing Jarek Reed back home to the Seattle Seahawks after he was with the Green Bay Packers. And he played well. He stuck in his role as he usually does. Good rotation player for us. So not a bad signing in my opinion. I'll talk about 2 other signings here. These guys have already left the building. Evan Brown, center. He's out the building. He was on a 1-year deal. And Devin Bush as well at linebacker. 1-year deal, out the door, not a Seahawk anymore. Julian Love, though, signed him for 2 years, coming from the Giants organization because they did not sign him again. So we got him for 2 years, $12 million. I think this was a steal because with the injuries that happened to Jamal Adams again, and of course injuries that were affecting Quandre Diggs a little bit this season as well, Julian Love stepped in and he was phenomenal. Now he's our starter. Those 2 guys at safety that I just talked about, Diggs and Jamal Adams, are not on the Seahawks anymore. So we'll get to that a little bit later. But I'm happy with who we have at safety. But sadly, again, it happened again. Bobby Wagner came back home, but he left us again. He is now a Washington Commander. And last year we got him on a 1-year, $7 million deal. I believe the Washington Commanders got him on a 1-year, maybe $9 or $10 million deal. I guess it was just a little bit too much. And Mike McDonald had other plans instead of keeping an older, aging linebacker. who just really racks up tackles and still looks good in that blue and green uniform. But I wiped the tears out of my eyes and we'll move on because season in a nutshell, guys. Lackluster, like I said in the beginning. But what really saved us is the three young rookies that have been making plays for us. And of course, that's JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Devin Witherspoon, and Zach Charbonnet. Now, not so much Zach Charbonnet because he wasn't the full-time starter behind Kenneth Walker, who we drafted last year. But he's still a guy who makes plays. So I love that for him. And he's looking like he could steal the spot from Kenneth Walker maybe midway through the season. But we'll have to wait and see on that. But JSN, of course, big plays, one-handed catches. He's looking like the replacement Tyler Lockett was a long time ago when we drafted him. But not yet. I still think we keep him in the slot. I still think he has that wide receiver 3 potential. Hopefully, all 3 of our receivers this year can get 1,000 yards receiving. I think it's very possible, especially with the way that Ryan Grubb runs his offenses there when he was with Alabama. But again, Witherspoon, the spoon, man. Jeez, this guy is an animal. He makes plays left and right. I mean, sacks, interceptions for touchdowns, big tackles for loss. He's just a good guy for his size out there on the boundary. And I love him because, it gives me kind of a little bit of Richard Sherman vibes. But again, he's not as structurally sound as Sherman was, but he'll get there. He's a very hungry kid, and he's got a lot of spunk. And I think under Mike McDonald, as well as Dirty, I think that he can be a star, as he already is. But speaking on the area that I'm not very happy with, but I'm a little happier now after a signing that we did. Geno Smith played well, but not well when it counted. And we did sign Sam Howell from the Washington Commanders. We traded a 3rd-round pick for a 4th-round pick and a couple other swap picks there. But I'm pretty happy with this because Sam Howell is a young cat. He's still got a lot of time to develop in this league. And finally, maybe with a better O-line this year, since we will be looking at the trenches, I hope that maybe next year he can develop and hopefully become our starter if we can see that potential in him this offseason. But some departures from this year. Not some of the best names, but some names that really hit home there. Quarterback Drew Lock, really liked him in the organization, but he's going elsewhere to be not a starter, but a backup. So happy for him there. He gets a little bit more money, he gets to travel around, and hopefully become a starter one day. But other than that, linebacker Jordan Brooks, again, safeties Quandre Diggs and Jamal Adams, tight ends Will Dissly and Kobe Parkinson, linebackers Bobby Wagner and Devin Bush, and defensive tackle Brian Monet. But last but not least, one of the staple points of the Seattle Seahawks under Pete Carroll, Nick Bellore. He was our fullback special teamer. He had a show called Between Two Bellores. It was funny, in my opinion, but again, that's just something that's going to leave the building and the organization under new head coaching management. But something that I'm very excited for is some of these free agent additions. This one, not so much. Leonard Williams, defense tackle from the Giants. We signed him for a lot of money, just like we did with Draymond Jones. And I'm just hoping Leonard Williams can actually produce. If he doesn't again, this is just going to bring our grade down for next year. But as of right now, I think he has a lot of potential, and I think he can make a difference on this defensive line, especially since we are focusing on the trenches now. Pharaoh Brown, tight end from the Browns. I'm very excited about this one. This guy's a sneaky cat at the tight end position, and I think he can do some work with the exits of Will Dissly and Kobe Parkinson. And with the departures of some of our linebackers, we signed Terrell Dodson from the Bills and Jerome Baker from the Dolphins on very relatively low deals for the linebacker position. So I'm very happy. We got them both on similar deals of what we got Bobby Wagner last year on $7 million. And we also added to the safety room, Rayshon Jenkins. This is who I'm very happy we got. According to PFF, who we really don't like too much, but a couple of other ESPN notes there. Rayshon Jenkins was one of the best in coverage in man as well as zone. So he's one of the most sound safeties in the NFL at this point in time. I'm hoping he slides in well with the Seahawks, and with this new Mike McDonald defense. And some of the offensive line help that we're getting here too. George Fant, reunion, back with the Seahawks. Tackle position, love it. He's just big now, and he looks like he's very mobile in retrospect to what he was when he was with us a few years ago. But also, we're adding a center, as I said earlier. Nick Harris came from the Browns as well. He was not a starter the entire year. He was switching back from guard and center there. So I really don't know where the position he'll stick at. Maybe we draft a center in the draft and maybe he's a guard. But at this point in time, I think he's going to be our center there. And also another guard from the Rams, Tremaine Ankrum. He wasn't a starter. He was a backup. So I think this is just a depth piece. But again, he could slide into that starting lineup at some point in time in the season. But just some other depth pieces that I think are not going to make too much of an impact. We got Jonathan Hankins, a defensive line player. It was a relatively low signing, but I still think that he's not going to make too much of a difference. He'll be a rotation player, won't get too many sacks, won't get too many pressures. But again, just rotation guy there. And another safety, Kevon Wallace from the Cardinals and Titans. This guy was in and out of the starting lineup. I don't think that he's going to be a starter anywhere. He'll just be a good depth piece to hopefully compete with these rookies that we can possibly draft. But last but not least, we'll move into our draft capital for this year. Not as exciting and not as many top tier picks like we had last year, but we got the 16th pick in round 1, and we go straight down to the 3rd round. Pick 81. This is from New Orleans. We got this one from Denver. And we got 2 4th-round picks at pick 104 and 118. So I'm kind of happy about those. I think we can steal some gems in those rounds, especially very close together. And in round 5, pick 152. Round 6, pick 192. And our last pick in round 7, pick 235. So not a lot of top-tier picks here, but there is a possibility we could trade up or just stick with what we have as a unit right now and see what we can get in the draft at these positions. There are some areas where I think we can trade back or trade up in those 4th and 5th rounds, but I still think we'll settle for the positions we have unless there's a team that wants to trade with us to get one of our picks, maybe at pick 16, and maybe we can get a late 1st rounder and an early 2nd rounder to kind of bring in a little bit more top tier talent at that position. So I wouldn't be mad if that happened, but again, we'll have to wait and see it till the draft. It's about 1 month away since you guys are seeing this right now, but we'll be there. So hopefully I can have some excitement live in action in Detroit. But our cap space, horrendous right now, horrendous for next year. We only have $2.03 million left in the cap space. So not too good. We still need to sign a lot of our rookies. But what I am happy about is the future of the Seahawks. So let me know down in the comments what you guys think of my rating here. It's a B- for the Seahawks at this point in time. Could elevate next year, just depending on how we perform. But my expectations for next year are going to be fighting again for a playoff spot and hopefully rivaling the San Francisco 49ers with some of their departures in this NFC West division. Again, I do not know if we are going to be that sound to win this division, but I hope that we can give the San Francisco 49ers a running for their money and hopefully at least split the 2 games that we play with them every single year. Let me know down in the comments what you think. Let me know your grade. Let me know if you think I'm just a delusional Seahawks fan. So I'm happy to hear it. But of course, as we always say, guys, hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and of course, keep on grinding. Be strong.